Since we're in the Computer Science History Museum, I'll start with a little bit of history. So in 2010, I and a handful of other researchers got really excited about this idea of using neural networks for natural language processing. It was very much a niche subject with literally a handful of researchers. And I was very excited at the time to think about a single neural network that can solve many different tasks in natural language processing. Over the next 8 years, the community had grown a bunch. And in 2018, with my team at Salesforce Research, we finally submitted a paper led by Brian McCann, first author and also co-founder at V.com, to have a single model for the 10 hardest NLP tasks. In order to make that work, we had to invent what we now call prompt engineering. We called it answering questions over a paragraph. And you could ask, what's the sentiment of this tweet? What's the translation of that sentence into German? What is the summary of this paragraph? And all of these different questions you would trigger to just get answers from a single model. And that was our idea for trying to unify most of everything in natural language processing. So this was a research line of thought, almost a decade in the making. I was super excited about this culmination of this passion that I've had for many years. We submitted it to ICLR. We thought clearly this should be a very impactful paper, and that was what we got back from the reviewers. Misguided and over-trialed it. Why aren't you working on a single task? And show me that you very carefully did better on that one task. You know, those researchers, 95% of all researchers at that time had worked their entire careers on one task. They worked just on sentiment or just on translation. And they didn't like this idea that we would do it all in one model. And literally, anonymous reviewer number 2 famously wrote, "There's no such thing as general question answering. Not even for humans." I'm like, have you heard of this thing called the brain? Like, pretty sure we don't switch it out every time we answer different questions. Long story short, Ariel Chair was absolutely certain this paper was not worthy of being presented at the conference. Now, the silver lining was that we did inspire a few other people to work on this line of research. Alec Redford, Ilya Sutskever, in their papers early on at OpenAI when they got into NLP, actually were inspired and said, yes, as exemplified by McCann et al., language provides a flexible way to specify task inputs and outputs, all as a sequence of symbols. The rest of this is more well-known history, GPT-2, 3, ChatGPT, and so on. But I still thought for a long time, like, how come these reviewers had such different views on where AI can be or should be? And I think it boiled down, in my view, on a confusing dual state that the field of AI is currently in. And the states I call electricity and AGI research. On the left side, we have the electricity state of AI. We solve a single task, we have a very concrete problem, sentiment analysis, we get a lot of data, we train a large neural net, and we can solve anything that we have a lot of training data for, we can now solve, no problem. And very often when we solve tasks in that electricity state, and the reason I call it electricity is because we've understood the basic principles, and just like electricity, you can now electrify/AIify lots of different industries out there. The reason we call it that, is that, and like, we basically often don't even call these things AI anymore. Right now you're just using the chess app on your phone. You're just using Siri. But that was the culmination of many years of research and the pinnacle of AI, to be able to program a chess computer and things like that. Now on the other side, we have the sort of elusive goal of AGI research, where we still try to build general purpose systems. And what we're seeing now with these LLMs is that they're indeed multitask learners. They can solve many different tasks in a single model. And I think that's a very important step towards AGI. I'm not saying we're there yet, but that is sort of the confusion, that there are these two states. A lot of folks mostly work, and researchers have worked for most of their careers on single tasks. Now, there's no better place to exemplify the crazy progress we've seen and the merging of these two states. They're getting closer and closer to one another than we have in search. in the beginning of this year, we're the only LLM that had an internet connection and give you citations and things like that. That idea now feels like a strawberry jam in a supermarket. There are like many copycats, big and small, of this idea. But it came about much earlier. In the beginning of 2022, we brought LLMs into search results, like the standard search results, like 10 blue links, but we felt like clearly you could do better. If I asked, like, how do I program this Python Fibonacci function or something like that, it wouldn't make sense to have 10 blue links. It would make sense to give you a code snippet, given, like, programmed by an LLM, and then maybe some reference links. So that's what we did. But whenever we deviated a little bit too much from the Google-like experience, a lot of users would say, I'm so used to Google, I don't like it when it's too different. That all changed with ChatGPT last year, and so we also moved. And a lot of people were also skeptical because ChatGPT isn't up to date. You can't train an LLM every 10 seconds and sorry, it comes out. It doesn't give you citations for where it gets the facts, and it hallucinates a bunch. And again, a bunch of researchers from that first state of AI who worked on single tasks say, well, that's because it's just ill-conceived to try to build a single model for all of question answering. But we thought, no, let's just fix those problems. And so late last year, we were the first to solve these kinds of problems where if you asked for when the Soccer World Cup, it wouldn't know because it happened after the training cutoff. And instead, we gave it access to the internet. It can search the web and then give you a citation and know where that fact comes from and tell you the right answer. Now, the second problem was that it still would sometimes hallucinate, and even if it didn't hallucinate as much as I love text, text isn't always the right answer for every question. If I ask, like, what's the stock market or what's the weather, I don't want to read 3 paragraphs about that. And so we allowed the LLM also to decide to give multimodal or differently formatted answers. In this case, for instance, a stock ticker quote. And then the last thing that we found is that these models have a lot of trouble with when it comes to what Daniel Kahneman said, called system 2 thinking, or thinking slow, which is hard, logical, mathematical, and complex reasoning tasks. And it's particularly bad because often these models will pretend to be doing it, but not actually doing it right. Like, and you can test this out by just asking for a large multiplication of 2 numbers, and will pretend to be multiplying it correctly, but it's just wrong numbers that come out. And so what we decided is that we need to have the ability for these models to program. And here you see an example of that, maybe. Should be video. Oh, no video. Oh well. Here you would see that it will actually code an answer for you. If you say @agent into u.com and you ask, like, calculate me a mortgage, or what weight would a box that weighs this much of Earth be on the moon, it will literally pull out all the physics constants and then program it for you, run that code, then look at the output, think if that output was right, and if not, continue to code until it gets you the right answer. And that will change, I think, all of education, research, and allow LLMs to be even more accurate when it comes to very complex reasoning tasks. Now, I want to end on this analogy of a mirror. I think AI, as these AGI models get better and better and more general, will be increasingly a mirror to society and to humanity. And it will only be as good as the people, the data sets, and the systems that we train it, and that train it and use it, and that we bring to the mirror. And as such, it will pick up a lot of the biases that we have, not just in the output, but also in the problems that we're trying to solve. At U.com, we decided we want to solve for an AI assistant. At some point, we actually stopped calling it a search engine and started calling it an AI assistant that helps you with search, but it also helps you to create, to write poetry, write essays, to code, to learn, and so on. And I invite you all to give it a try at U.com. We now also have APIs, since we are in an enterprise session. I'll end on that. A lot of folks have asked us, can we have a retrieval augmented generation just like you've had for almost a year? And we're now offering that under documentation with U.com. And so you also can make your LLMs more up-to-date, factual, and have citations. Thank you.